a Yiddish writer for the Yiddish paper in Brooklyn who was very left-wing. He was a communist. Somehow, he got invited to spend a Shabbos in Crown Heights. And after spending a Shabbos in Crown Heights, he wrote an article, his column in the paper, in Yiddish, and he basically said, I spent a Shabbos in Crown Heights, and I learned the difference, I discovered the difference between people who are very religious and people who are deeply religious. And he described the difference very, very insightful, very, very wise. He got it. There are people who are very religious. Not good. There are people who are deeply religious. Very good. And the difference is like night and day. There's a thing called religiosity. It's like any bad habit. It's like any addiction. There are people who are workaholics. There are people who are alcoholics. And there are people who are religious. Very religious. People who are very religious are not good at relationships. Just as workaholics are not good at relationships. Just as people who are addicted to relationships are not good at relationships. Religiosity means a commitment to religiousness, which is a religion in itself. If you're committed to being religious, then you're not committed to Judaism. You have a different agenda. It's like what we do on the liberal side of the coin. God says, keep Shabbos. What does the liberal mind say? That's a great idea. Family time. You get to spend time with your family. It's a great idea. I can just imagine God saying, no, excuse me, don't work on Shabbos. And they say, right, spend time with your family. God says, no, listen to me. I didn't say anything about family. Don't work on Shabbos. And we keep insisting, yes, it's a great idea. It's family time. God says, don't eat certain foods. We say, that's great. You have to discipline your eating habits. God says, no, just listen to me. Don't eat kakamemi foods. They say, right, discipline, diet. God says, why can't you just listen to me? Read my lips. Don't work on Shabbos, whether you're married or not. It's Shabbos I'm talking about, not family. When I want to give you family counseling, I'll give you family counseling. Right now I'm talking about Shabbos. The flip side of that is the very religious mind. God says, don't work on Shabbos. And the very religious person says, oh, that's holy. God says, I didn't say anything about holy. Just keep Shabbos. Right, it's so holy. You want to be holy or do you want to listen to me? People who want to be holy are not good at relationships. They don't listen. They don't hear. If you want to think of it in positive terms, religious people are like angels. They are similar in that you can't speak to either of them. God comes to the angels and says, can I tell you something about me? the angel starts to dance. Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. God says, will you calm down a second? I'm trying to talk to you. You're trying to talk to me? Holy, holy, infinite. Calm down and listen to me. Can't. And that's why God says, I'm not giving you the Torah. I can't even talk to you. I'm going to talk to human beings. They can listen if they want to. So the Eibishter comes to the people and says, would you like my Torah? And they say, not really. See? You can talk to them. But people who are religious are like angels. You can't talk to them. So the Eibishter says, would you like to keep Shabbos? Is it holy? Stop with the holy. Do you want to keep Shabbos? Of course, it's holy. No, stop with the holy. Just Shabbos. Can you get past your religiosity and just listen to me? This is the problem with religion. Religion is an agenda of its own. It has a goal of its own. It has a mentality of its own. They do these surveys in the United States. 98% of non-Jews who were surveyed and asked, do you consider yourself religious, said yes. 89% of Jews who were surveyed said no. Because Jews, by nature, are not religious. If you ask a Jew, are you religious? The answer is no. It's not Jewish. We are not religious by nature. And we know this from way back. God gathers us, takes us out of Mitzrayim with 10 miracles, with the splitting of the sea, thunder and lightning, the mountain is shaking, there's smoke coming out of it, and the Eibishter says, don't make graven images. That would impress almost anybody, but not Jews. 40 days later, just out of curiosity, what happens if you do make a graven image? Let's find out. That's not a religious nature. We are not good at being religious. But we're very good at relationships. You know the story that the Eibishter offered the Torah to all the nations, and they didn't respond correctly, and so they didn't get the Torah. We got the Torah because we said something right. What exactly was our wisdom? God offered the Torah to other nations. He said, I have mitzvahs, are you interested? And they said, what's a mitzvah? A very rational, reasonable question. And God said, never mind. You blew it. What did we say? You offered us mitzvahs. I asked, what's a mitzvah? Not good? Not good. You don't get the Torah. When we were offered the Torah, we said yes. What's a mitzvah? But first we said yes. Why? Because there's a difference in whether you hear the word commandment or you hear the word I. God said, I have commandments. I have mitzvahs. The nations heard the word mitzvah, so they intelligently, reasonably, responsibly said, what's a mitzvah? How can I accept? I don't know what you're talking about. Wrong answer. We said yes. Why? Because we didn't hear the word mitzvah. We heard the word I. God came and said, I have mitzvahs. You have? I'm interested. Now what's a mitzvah? In other words, we related to the mitzvah more than to the mitzvah. The other nations focused on the mitzvah instead of the mitzvah. When God offers us his mitzvahs, he's asking for a relationship. They missed it. And so they didn't get the Torah. It's pretty much like if a man says to a woman, "Will you marry me?" And she says, "Well, what do you mean by marriage?" Never mind. I'm not here to discuss. Yes or no? Do you want me? I said, well, maybe, but you said marriage. What's a marriage? Marriage means yes. Now, what are we going to do? But to you, the answer is yes. Now, what's a marriage? We'll find out. We'll work on it. But the answer is yes. That's called relationship. If you're good at relationship, you don't focus on the religiosity. And that's why there's no such thing as a reform wife and an orthodox wife. See, if you do dishes and laundry, then you're orthodox. If you do only laundry, then you're conservative. If you don't do laundry or dishes, then you're reform. There's no such thing. If you do 613 things in your home, you're a wife. An orthodox wife? A religious wife? A wife is a wife. It's my house, my family. You do 613 mitzvahs. Are you Orthodox? Yahweh is Orthodox. I'm Jewish. It's my Torah, so I do it. Does that make you religious? The word itself is offensive. It's offensive. Do you want to be religious or do you want to be a Jew? Make up your mind. If you're busy being religious, you're not a good Jew. And if you're busy being Jewish, what do you need religion for? Leave religion for other people. They need it because they're not Jewish. Somebody once explained, what is Avodah Zarah that is so offensive? In some way worse than any other Aveira. He used the example. A citizen wants or needs something from the king. He can't approach the king. There's protocol. You go to your local representative. He goes to the senator goes to the minister goes to the interior minister, until you get to the vice president, and the vice president tells the president that you have a problem. That's the appropriate way of doing things. But imagine if the king's daughter needs something from the king, from her father. So she goes to the representative, and he goes to the minister, and the minister goes, and it gets to the king. The king is offended. He's hurt. You need something from me, you talk to strangers? Talk to me. So what may be appropriate for non-Jews, because they are God's citizens, but we are his children, it's totally inappropriate to involve a stranger in a family affair. But imagine if you need something from your father, who is your king, and you know that it's more likely that he will give you what you need if your sister asks for you. Because she's his favorite, she gets everything. She is the baby. So you go to your sister, and you ask your sister to talk to your father about your problem. Would he be offended? Not only wouldn't he be offended, he would be so pleased that the sisters get along. One sister is asking for the other. When Jews ask for each other. When you say Tehillim for another Jew, that's not Avodah Zarah. That's within the family. When you go to a tzaddik for a bracha, does God say, what are you talking to him for? Come to me. No. When Jews talk to each other about their needs, that's what God wants. That's a family. That's not involving a stranger. In, I don't know, the last 500 years or so, we kind of lost touch with the relationship, and we became a religion. Maybe it's because we lived among religious people, Christians in the European community, Muslims in the Eastern communities, and they practice a religion. And naturally they ask us, what is your religion? And we said, well, Judaism. Oh, so that's your religion. Not really, but it's hard to explain. So yeah, fine, it's my religion. And we actually bought it. We convinced ourselves that we have a religion too. So now we have the 3 Bible-based religions. It's not true. Religions are born out of Judaism. Judaism was never a religion. It's not meant to be a religion. And that's why it's given to Jews who are not good at being religious. It fits. You raise children and you teach them to do mitzvahs. You have to be really careful. Don't let them get the mistaken impression that they are meant to be religious. It's a terrible thing. You tell a little boy or a little girl to make a bracha on their cookie. What is that all about? Would you ever think of saying to your child, you can't eat without a bracha, you're Orthodox. We are Orthodox, we make brachas. Don't be surprised if your kid grows up a little bit and says, well, maybe you're Orthodox, I'm not. What are you going to do, argue? He's not Orthodox. Then you have to resort to saying, as long as you live in my house, you'll do it. This is bad news. You say to a child, make a bracha. Make a bracha. You're a Jewish child. Not you're an Orthodox child. Not if you want to be frum, make a bracha. You make a bracha because you're a Jew. And what does that mean? So what if you're a Jew? So there's a guy in Minnesota, very earthy guy. He's a truck driver. He is a truck, not that he drives a truck, he is a truck driver, if you know what I mean. A Jewish truck driver. I know Jackie Mason says there's no such thing, but anyway, his wife came to Beis Chana, and she decided she wants to keep kosher. He was very upset. And he confronts me one day in his characteristic manner. He says, give me one good reason that I should keep kosher, and don't give me no philosophy. Here's a guy who is so earthy, he's so straight, he's so honest, and he's very Jewish. But he never kept kosher, never kept Shabbos, never. So he says, give me one good reason that I should keep kosher. I said, you should keep kosher because non-Jews don't. He says, oh, okay. What's he going to say? Non-Jews don't keep kosher. Guess why? Well, because it's a Jewish thing. Now what's your question? Why should a Jew do Jewish things? I give up. I'm stumped. Why should a Jew do Jewish things? If you say, because then you'll be religious, wrong answer. So what does it mean? Make a bracha because you're a Jewish child. What does that mean? It means God is waiting to hear a bracha from you. Doesn't wait to hear a bracha from a non-Jew. Non-Jews have 7 mitzvahs. Brachas is not one of them. But God expects a Jewish child to make a bracha. Somebody once asked me, what is a chassid? He heard a chassid is somebody who goes beyond the letter of the law. But he never understood what that means. What do you do beyond the letter of the law? You make up new mitzvahs? What do you do? What's beyond the letter of the law? You're very careful not to work on Shabbos. That's not beyond the letter of the law. You're very careful that the food should be kosher. That's good. What can you do beyond the letter of the law? Shake 2 lulavs? Put 2 mezuzahs on your door? You're not allowed. You know that when Hasidus started, back in the times of the Baal Shem Tov, the religious community was very upset. The religious leaders were very suspicious. And for good reason. They heard that Hasidim live beyond the letter of the law. And they said, what in the world does that mean? Beyond the letter of the law sounds like lawless. That's terribly dangerous. That will not keep Yiddishkeit alive. You go beyond the letter of the law? You do whatever you want? You make up new rules? What is that? What is beyond the letter of the law? What lies beyond the letter of the law? What would you find if you went beyond the law? Beyond the law, lifnim means before, not beyond. Lifnim mishuras hadin. Before you get to the law. What is there before you get to the law? What is there before you get to the mitzvah? The mitzvah. It's like saying, who's behind these laws? God. The Eibishter. Going beyond the letter of the law means you're not doing it because a law is a law. You're doing it because of whose law is this? What inspires me is not laws are laws and you have to obey laws. Jews don't do that. We hear a law, we try to figure out how to violate it. But when you hear whose law is this, oh, that impresses us. You have these courses, how to make your marriage better. How to make your marriage better. Well, first of all, learn to communicate. Share your feelings. Express your needs. Don't expect people to read your mind. That's all very nice and good. You know people who have gone to these courses, and they are so articulate, they understand each other so well, that when they get divorced, they're best friends. Because they communicate well. Somebody says, how do I make my marriage better? You're going to give them a set of rules? A man comes and says, how can I make my wife happy? So, excuse me, why are you asking me? Ask her. Never occurred to him. Why are you asking me how to make her happy? What is there, a rule book I can open up and say, if you do this, she'll be happy? I don't know what's going to... Ask her. You want to make her happy. No. He just wants to be a good husband. Whether she likes it or not. So if I tell him how to be a good husband, he's going to do it. If she doesn't like it, it's her problem. This is a good husband? He's following all the rules. So when a man comes and says, I'm so embarrassed, I'm so ashamed of myself, I'm shocked, I'm not a good husband. I'm a terrible husband. I have been a terrible husband. I can't look at myself in the mirror. I'm so embarrassed. I'm so ashamed of myself. And he's crying. Is he going to become a better husband? No. He neglected her, he abused her because he thinks only of himself. What's he thinking of now? Himself. Only now he's determined to be a good husband. She's in trouble. If a man comes and says, I can't believe it. I can't believe how I treat my wife. She is so good. She puts up with so much. She has gone out of her way. She's given up so much. She deserves better. This is going to be a good marriage. Is he going to be a better husband? No. He's just going to be better to her. Does that make him a better husband? I don't know. They'll be happily married. Does he get credit for being a good husband? That's not the point. And the same is true with Yiddishkeit. You want to be a better Jew? You're on the wrong track. Don't be a better Jew. Find out what God wants and do it. Will that make you a tzaddik? Who's talking about you? We're talking about him. Religion means I want to get something from above. Muslims want to get what they want to get. Let's not even talk about that. Christians want to get what they want to get. What do we want to get? What do Jews want to get from God? By being good. By being frum. Most Jews you ask have no idea. You ask a Jew who is practicing religion, so what do you get from doing this? What do I get? What have Jews gotten so far? Pogroms? Ghettos? Cholent? What have we gotten? And we don't even stop to think. We don't ask that question. Because we're not being religious. If you're religious and you don't get what you're trying to get, you quit. Imagine if Muslims would find out that there are no virgins in heaven. It's all over. What if Christians find out that no matter how good you are, you're going to hell anyway? It's all over. We know we're going to Gehenna. Who's not going to Gehenna? We're all going to Gehenna. In fact, if you ended up in heaven, in Gan Eden, you would have nobody to talk to. Because your friends are not there. So, what are we doing? In Williamsburg, there was this Muslim who was a painter, a house painter. And he was painting the house of a Satmar Chassid. And they got into conversation. And he said to the Satmar, he said to the Chassid, he said, I don't understand why you're so religious. What do you get from it? I've asked, he says, I've asked many Hasidim. They say if you're good, you get to sit next to God. Who wants to sit next to God? What are you going to do? He says, we have a practical plan. But what is this? You want to sit next to God? What, are you going to have a conversation with him? What are you going to talk about? The Super Bowl? What do we want to sit next to God? What do we want? We don't know. You're Jewish, you're Jewish. See, that's not a religion. It's not a religion. I got to tell you, this is a problem that has practical, even dangerous impact. A couple of years ago, my wife and I came to Eretz Yisrael for Hanukkah. The Midwest is very Scandinavian. Minnesota is very Scandinavian. So around that time of year, you know, the end of December, there's a holiday, I don't know if you've heard of it. And people put on lights, bulbs, millions of them. They start in November, and they don't take them down until April. You light a menorah in your window, nobody will ever see it. It's lost. So we figured, come to Eretz Yisrael for Hanukkah. So we came. The fourth night of Hanukkah, we're walking down the street, the main street of Mea She'arim. All the shops are closed. Time to light the menorah. And everybody is running around with a candle, with a wick, with an oil, with those little things with the chimneys. Unbelievable. And of course they light it outside. So you see everybody busy with their menorah. It's Hanukkah. There isn't a single bulb anywhere. Feels like Hanukkah. It was nice. That's what we came for. As we're walking up the street, a troop of soldiers are coming in the other direction. About 40 soldiers in double file. They're marching through these streets on their way to some danger spot or something. They're wearing bulletproof vests. And the tension as they're walking down those streets was so intense. It was horrible. They felt like they were walking through enemy territory. Nobody looked at them. Nobody said a word to them. And they wouldn't look at anybody. It was such a painful, disappointing experience. It wasn't Hanukkah anymore. It was terrible. It's inexplicable. These soldiers are on their way to a dangerous place to protect you because there might be some incident on Hanukkah. They're going so that you can light your menorah in peace. Busy with your candles and your wicks and your thing. You don't say something to them? Okay, if you're Chabad, you don't say something, you give them the menorah. Here, you light it. Okay, they're not Chabad in Mea She'arim. Don't give them your menorah. Say something. Say Chag Sameach. Say come back healthy. Say thank you. Something. Nothing. On the other hand, these soldiers are risking their lives so that these people can light their menorah. You're willing to risk your life for them, but you can't say hello to them? What is this? It was a terribly painful thing to see. So I started to wonder, what happened? At the turn of the century, there were some people, early Zionists, who had a dream. of bringing Jews together into our own country. Sounds like a nice plan? But you know what was going on then? While they were having their dream? There were Jews in Russia. Russia is very big, a very big country. And there were Jews in Russia living in this huge country, and they couldn't get along with each other. There were the White Russians, and there were the Litvaks, and there were the Ukrainians. They couldn't get along. There were Jews living in Poland. Not as big as Russia, but a big country. They couldn't get along. If you're a Galicianer, you're from the south, you're from the north, you're from... And the Polish Jew and the Russian Jew, forget about it. Then there were Jews in Romania, and they didn't get along with anybody. And then there were Jews in Hungary, and they didn't get along with anybody. Now this guy comes up with a dream. Let's take all these Jews who live in huge countries and can't stand each other. Let's cram them into a tiny little country. We'll see who survives. What were they thinking? So I figured it out. What they were thinking is like this. Jews in Europe don't get along with each other because this one is a Ukrainian, and this one is a White Russian, and this one is a Galician, and this one is a Litvak, and this one is Hungarian, and this... No more! We don't want to be that anymore. We just want to be Jews. And if Jews were just Jews, they would get along. Look, the non-Jews don't get along. The Ukrainian non-Jew hates the Russian. So we picked it up. If you're Ukrainian, you don't like Russians. If you're Polish, no more. Let's go back to being Jews. And what's the best place to do that? Then in Eretz Yisrael, the land of the Jews. Such a good plan. But if it's such a good plan, what went wrong? What went wrong? So I did a little survey of my own, and I discovered something really interesting. There are no Jews in Israel. You can't find a Jew in Israel. Because if you stop somebody in the street and you say, "Excuse me, what are you?" One person will say, "Haredi." The other person will say, "Dati." A third person will say, "Chiloni." The fourth one will say, "Chiloni Tahor." One will say Svardi, the other one will say Ashkenazi, one will say Dovish, and the other one will say Hawkish, and the other one will say, aren't there any Jews? There are no Jews here. There's religious and there's not religious. There's political and there's apolitical. There are no Jews. Stopped one guy in the street in Geula. I said, "Excuse me, what are you?" He says, "Jewish." I said, "Where are you from?" He said, "Cleveland." We got to go back to the original plan. What is this with religious? When did Jews become religious? We ran away from that so that we could be Jews again. Where'd you bring your religion with you? In Israel, if you stop someone and say, "What are you?" there should be only one answer. Yehudi. You need to improve on that? Sorry, you're practicing a religion. Don't bring religion to Eretz Yisrael. The biggest problem, all the trouble, all the suffering in Eretz Yisrael for all of our history has been religion. In the time we got rid of it, no more religion. This is not a place for religion. You want to practice religion, go into Golos. In Eretz HaKodesh, there's only one way to be, and that is Jewish. The fact is that in the entire Torah, the written and the oral, there is no word for religion. There's no such word. There's no word for religious. Where did it come from? How many religious Jews were standing at Mount Sinai when the Torah was given? Not one. Oh, maybe Moshe was. There were no religious Jews. How many Orthodox Jews were there at Har Sinai? None. And how many Reform? None.
Keep us from
Is religion good for your health? It's a dangerous thing. If it detracts, if it distracts you from being Jewish, it's a terrible thing. When people say, I'm a feminist Jew, I'm a communist Jew, I'm a liberal Jew, I'm a religious Jew, they all have the same problem. One Reform rabbi once said to me, how come we can't communicate? I'm also religious. I said, that's the problem. You're too religious for me. You're practicing a religion, an easy religion, a non-demanding religion. But you're practicing a religion. I can't talk to you. I don't understand you. So the very religious and the very little religious, they have the same problem. This is not about religion. This is about authenticity. A Jew is an Am Kodesh. What do you need to embellish that for? Just be a Jew. So if you keep one mitzvah because you're a Jew, then you're Jewish. If you keep 600 mitzvahs because you're a Jew, then you're Jewish. And what else do you need? What else do you want? So here's the key. If you ask yourself, have I been a good daughter to my parents? Have I been a good son? You dafke want to suffer? Don't ask yourself that question. It's poison. Because the answer, of course, is no. You haven't even begun to honor your parents properly. So what are you asking? Have I been a good father to my children? Have I been a good mother? Don't go there. Because the answer is no. Have I been a good wife or a good husband? No. You know what it takes to be a good husband? Of course you haven't been a good husband. Have I been a good Jew? Are you kidding? That's why 89% of Jews interviewed say, no, I'm not religious. Because they're thinking of their grandfather. So, compared to him, these are impossible tasks. What does it take to be a good Jew? I don't know. It's endless. What does it take to be a good daughter or son? I can't even imagine. What does it take to be a good father, a good mother? What does it take to be a good husband and a good wife? You have no idea. Anybody who thinks, I'm good at it, you don't know what it is. I saw the sign in an office, they have these funny, the sign said, if you can be calm under the circumstances, you don't understand the circumstances. It's not that you're a genius. You just don't understand what you're up against. If you think you're a good father, you have no idea what a father is. We had this wedding in Minnesota, a very Chassidish traditional chasana. And there was this guy who never seen such a chasana before, and he watches as they're carrying the chassan to the chuppah, dragging him actually. And then the bride is pushed up. So he says to me, when the chassan came back, he said to me, "What's he so serious about?" I said, "Excuse me, he's getting married. Shouldn't he be serious?" You realize what getting married means? You think you're going to be good at it? The rule is, if you don't regret being your parents' child, that's as good as it gets. If you never regret being a parent to your children, that's as good as it gets. If you never regret being a husband or a wife, that's it. That's as good as it gets. And if you never regret being a Jew, you're fine. The only bad way to be a Jew is by not wanting to be Jewish. The only bad husband is a husband who doesn't want to be a husband, or a mother, or a father, or a son, or a daughter. So how do you go about this? It's an endless, impossible task. So you never ask yourself, am I good? You never ask, how am I doing? You wake up every morning and you say, today I will. That's all. Today I will be a husband. A good husband? Stop. Don't be silly. Today I'll be a husband. Today I'm going to be my parents' child. Today I'm going to be my child's parent. And today I'm going to be a Jew. How am I doing? I haven't started. Today I'm going to do it. And every day should be that way. You wake up in the morning, you say, Modeh ani lefanecha, today I'm going to be a Jew. What about yesterday? Gone. Nothing. It doesn't matter. Today I'm going to be a Jew. And then you have nothing to measure. Have you been good? Been? That's gone. Today I'm going to be a Jew. That actually is called tshuva. Tshuva means, I haven't done anything until today, today I start. Everyone should feel that way. Even a tzaddik should feel that way. I haven't begun. Yesterday, the day before, that's gone. Today, I'm going to be a Jew. That's perfect. Today, I'm going to be a wife. I'm going to be a good wife? Don't go there. There has not yet been a good wife. Don't think you're going to be the pioneer. There has not yet been a good son or daughter. In fact, the Gemara says, no matter what you do for your parents, you haven't even made a dent. So, religion is for non-Jews. Bringing religion into our life, that's assimilation. We're not going to be religious. We're not meant to be religious. He doesn't want us to be religious. He just wants us to be Jews. To be Jews. If you're Jewish and comfortable and willing, you eat like a Jew. If you're Jewish, you dress like a Jew. If you're Jewish, you work like a Jew. So if you do all those things like a Jew, what will you be? A Jew. So one woman asked me, I'm thinking of becoming kosher, but what's going to happen to me if I start keeping kosher? What will I become? You see how bad this is? If a Jew does Jewish things, what will they become? What are you asking? What kind of question is this? If you start keeping kosher, what's going to be different? Your kitchen. You'll be a Jew. Your kitchen will be Jewish too. A woman says, I'm thinking of going to the mikveh, but what's that going to do to me? Make you wet? What else is it going to do to you? You keep mikveh, you're Jewish. So if anybody asks you, are you kosher now? Am I kosher? I know, part of the food chain, but I don't become kosher. I'm Jewish. Have you become Shomer Shabbos? No, Seventh-day Adventists are Shomer Shabbos. I'm Jewish. I'm not a Shomer Shabbos. You know where that expression comes from? From the butcher shops in the Lower East Side. If you wanted to know which butcher shop is kosher, the butcher put a little sign on his window say, Shomer Shabbos. Didn't mean he's Shomer Shabbos. It meant the shop is closed on Shabbos. How did that become a title for a person? Are you a Shomer Shabbos? Are you a Shomer Negiah? Ooh, religious. I'm not a Shomer Negiah. I'm married. We don't need titles. We don't need letters after our name. Yechetzkel Goldfein, Shomer Shabbos. And Negiah. We don't need that. All we need is to be Jewish. Comfortably Jewish. Proudly Jewish. Contentedly Jewish. That's all. Everything else is commentary. Let's sum it up. Religion means living a certain way so that you will get something from God. Something. Whatever it is. Being a Jew means if I find out that God needs something, I will do it for Him. I don't want from Him. I want to do for Him. That's Yiddishkeit. When we stood at Har Sinai, God didn't tell us what to do. He asked us to do what He needs. That's what mitzvahs are. His needs. And when He said, I have mitzvahs, we said, whatever it is. If it's for you, we're interested. And that's why we don't have thoughts of getting to heaven, having a front seat in Gan Eden, a bigger piece of gefilte fish. We're doing what He needs. He should get from us what He needs. That's much more important than me getting from Him what I need. That's not a religion. That's not a religion. If your Creator comes to you and says, I need something, you have to be religious to say yes? or just normal. We have to share this uniquely Jewish concept with each other and even with our non-Jewish friends and neighbors. You want to get something from God, gesundheit, hey, try your best. But what about what He needs from you? Isn't that more important? People talk about tikkun olam. Big, it's very big among the conservative and the reform. Tikkun olam. Of course, what they mean is save the whales. But what is tikkun olam? Fix the world. It's a noble plan. It's a good plan. But who needs tikkun olam? Who needs to fix the world? Who needs the world fixed? Me? Fix my neighborhood and I'll be happy. I need the whole world fixed? Who needs the whole world fixed? The Creator of the world. In fact, that's what He created it for. And that's what He gave us the Torah for. That we should have the tools with which to fix His world. So if you're excited about Tikkun Olam, remember whose Olam you're fixing. It's His world. It's His creation, His investment, His need. And you have the privilege and the honor of doing it for Him. And you're too distracted? You have more important things to do? So when God came to us and said, can you help me out? What were we supposed to say? Well, I don't know. Will I get Gan Eden for this? Silly. One final thought. Years back, the Rebbe asked us to do a project by getting young children involved in a mitzvah. We needed, something was happening here in Eretz Yisrael, it was dangerous. We needed a schus, and the schus would come from innocent children. So the Rebbe said, go out and do projects and get children to... So I printed up a long card with Moda Ani at the top, Shema Yisrael at the bottom, and a 10-day calendar. I went to the Talmud Torahs, to the Sunday schools, spoke to each of the classes there, and told them that we have a project. Take the card home and hang it up by your bed. For the next 10 days, say Moda Ani in the morning, check it off. Say Shema Yisrael at night before you go to sleep and check it off. At the end of the 10 days, have your parents sign it, bring it back, and you will get a prize. I made this little speech to 2 classes. In the 3rd class, I'm talking to these tiny little kids, 9-year-olds, and I make my little speech, and I say the Moda Ani, say the Shema at night, bring the color, and you'll get a prize. And this tiny little girl stands up and says, you don't have to give us a prize for doing good things. I was so embarrassed. So I said, oh, it's not for it's for bringing the card back. We don't need a prize to do the right thing. God comes and says, I created the world with a plan. Do you want to be part of that plan? What were we supposed to say? Will we get a prize? We're not that silly. We're not that frivolous. We are here to serve Him. Wasn't that the original plan? Ivdu es Hashem? How did we turn that around to where I'll behave myself if you serve me? So let's go back to the plan. We are here to serve Him. Can you serve Him well? You know who you're dealing with? No, you can't serve him well. Serve him. If you're doing what he needs, that's perfect. Are you doing it well? Don't go there. It's not important. You did the mitzvah, it's as good as it gets. You want to do it carefully, absolutely. You want to be sure that you actually did the mitzvah, absolutely. But you're doing it for him. That's called lifnim mishuras hadin. And that's why Chabad says everyone has to be a chassid. Everyone has to do lifnim mishuras hadin. That's Judaism. Otherwise, we're practicing a religion. So Hasidus is not for a particular group from some location in Poland. Hasidus means the original plan not to be religious, to be Jewish. Torah says, Daber el b'nei Yisrael, and tell them this mitzvah. B'nei Yisrael. Not Orthodox Jews, not Frum Jews, not Haredi Jews, the children of Israel. That's all you need to know. Years ago, there was a convention of Jewish activist students from all over North America. It was held in Toronto. 500 students. Back then it was a huge number. 500 students got together from all the campuses all over for 4 days or 5 days. It was a major event, the first of its kind. They had major speakers. Shimon Peres flew in to speak to them. By the way, he blew it. This was 1974, something around there. And he got up and he started talking, and one of the students said, "What are you doing for the falashas?" At that time, nobody was even thinking about it. So he dismissed the question. Another student raised his hand, "And what are you doing for the falashas?" And he dismissed it. It wasn't an issue in those days. A third student said, "What about the falashas?" He got frustrated and he said, "Falashas, shmalashas, what do you want from?" That's it. They booed him off the stage. He took a plane back to Israel. That's it. He blew it. But this was an event. My job at that convention was to have a midnight Fabrengen. Thursday night, at around 11 o'clock, we started a Fabrengen. Out of the 500 students, about 40 of them sat at this Fabrengen. And we sat all night long until the sun came up. Particularly because one of the students was a physics major, and he had questions. How do you know? How can you prove this? How can you prove that? But what if, and what if not? And questioning all night long. As the sun was coming up, there were about 6 students left, awake. One of them was an Israeli. And he turns to this physics major, and he says to him, "Excuse me, I've been sitting here all night, listening to your questions." He says, "I grew up on a kibbutz. I found out about Yom Kippur when I came to America. So I am not religious. I only know one thing. My people, my ancestors, spent 40 years in the Sinai desert. And at the end of 40 years, they came out of the desert with 5 books. The Bedouins have been in the Sinai desert for 4,000 years. They have no book. Not even a pamphlet. So as far as I'm concerned, not being religious at all, as far as I'm concerned, if your ancestors come out of a desert with 5 books, Shut up and read it. What's with all the questions? It's your ancestors' book. Read it. You don't have to be religious. You're Jewish. Your ancestors have books. If you read those books, are you being religious? It's about you. It's your book. I was in the airport in Chicago. This middle-aged guy comes over to me. I was younger then, so I called him middle-aged. He comes over to me without a hello, and he says, I'm a missionary. I'm on my way to Haiti. I'm smuggling Bibles into Haiti because the Bible is the Word of God. Every word in the Bible is true. It doesn't need to be proven because God spoke and it's the Word of God and it's true, and not a bad little sermon, you know? But after about 15 minutes, he says, so what's your relationship with the Bible? He used the word relationship. I'm a Kohen. I said, my relationship with the Bible? Aaron is my grandfather. His mouth fell open. He didn't know what to say. And he mumbled and walked away. To them, the Torah is the greatest book ever written. It's the Bible. To us, it's a family album. Speak to the children of Israel. Hello? Talking to me? You talking to me? It's my book. We were talking at the table once on Shabbos with the kids. Yitzchak said, but Rivka did, and we had some guests at the table, and at some point, this guy said, who are you talking about? Yitzchak said, Rivka didn't want, so they went. He said, who are you talking about? He thought we were talking about a cousin or a nephew, or I said, no, we're talking about Yitzchak Avinu. You know where he went? You know what he said? You know where he lived? You know how old he was? Yes. Mishpacha. So when we read the Torah, we're reading a great book. Mishpacha. For this, you have to be religious. It's your family album. It's all about you. So if you read it, are you Orthodox? You read it because it's your book. Let's be Jews. Let's be Jews. That's all God asks of us. If we were Jews, we would get along better with each other. We're good at relationships. We're not good at religion. As soon as we become religious, our relationships suffer. And particularly here. The whole problem started that we didn't get along. Because people were worshiping. What is this thing with Avodah Zarah? You understand why people were so hung up on Avodah Zarah? It wasn't this statue, that statue. It was being religious. As soon as you become religious, I'm more religious, you're less religious, that's it, we don't get along. Let's just be Jews. Not good Jews. Not the best Jews. Just Jews. Because that is the best. There's nothing better than that. Nothing better than that. A mediocre Jew is the greatest creation in the entire universe. And I say this in all humility. There's nothing arrogant about that statement. It's just true. We are the presence of the Shekhinah in this world. What more do you want? What more do you need? What more does God want? He wants you to be Zusha. That's all. Be Zusha. Or whatever your name is. And then we will be able to celebrate our Yiddishkeit. We'll be able to celebrate our oneness, our achdus, our mishpacha. And we'll be able to fix the world the way He wants, because He wants, for Him, not for us. That is the greatest joy in the world. Ivdu es Hashem, and you are b'simcha. It's a promise, not a demand. Ivdu es Hashem, if you're really serving Him, you will be b'simcha. Because there is no greater joy than that. Make sense? Any questions? Yeah.
I don't understand this. Hashem only wants you to be a Jew, but He wants you to show Shabbos. He wants you say to my show Shabbos is a tag. It's important to know. You don't want your daughter that's show Shabbos. You don't want her to marry someone who's not show Shabbos. So it is important to know how you show Shabbos, how you show Negiah. I don't understand any of that.
Can you repeat the question?
The question is, isn't it true that God does want you to be Shomer Shabbos and Shomer Negiah? It is important. It's not enough to be Jewish. Your daughter is going to marry a guy. All you want to know is whether he's Jewish, or you don't know if he's Shomer Shabbos. Technically speaking, of course you want to know if he keeps Shabbos. You also want to know if he has a job. That could be important too. But you don't ask, is he a job holder? Does he have a job? You ask, does he keep Shabbos? Not, is he a Shabbos keeper? It's not a new title. If he's Jewish, he should be keeping Shabbos. Is he? If he is, then he's Jewish. Not he becomes something in addition. He becomes a Shomer Shabbos, and a Shomer Kashrus, and a Shomer Negiah. It's not a new title. So there's not something else you need to become. And that's why if you make a Jew feel Jewish, what's going to happen is he'll start keeping kosher. He'll start keeping Shabbos because he feels Jewish, not because he became a Shomer Shabbos.
In Israel today, there are many people that they feel very Jewish. We have Hanukkah, we have Pesach, but they unfortunately do not keep many of the mitzvot, but they know they're Jewish. And I don't think and then the title is irrelevant. It doesn't matter whether you say I'm a Shomer Shabbos or I keep the laws of Shabbos. The title itself, that's just semantics. I mean, like a person who's called a doctor or a PhD. The point
Oh, there's a huge difference. If I think of myself as a Shomer Shabbos, then I can't get along with people who are not. If I think of myself as a Jew who's keeping Shabbos, then I would like to have other Jews keep Shabbos with me. It's not an elitist. It's not a separate. What is the word? Whatever. Yeah. So if I don't give myself a new title, I remain connected with people. I give myself a new title, I'm in a different category now. It's not good. Very not good. The truth is, people who don't do mitzvahs because they feel Jewish, there's something wrong with their logic. I heard this woman say, why do you think I need to keep kosher? I already feel Jewish. You obviously have a problem that you need to be kosher in order to feel Jewish. So I'm a better Jew. That's such twisted, tortured logic. Do you know anyone who ever started keeping kosher because they didn't feel Jewish? I don't feel Jewish. Maybe I should keep kosher. Never. A person starts to keep kosher because they feel Jewish. I don't know how we got convinced that as long as you feel kosher, that as long as you feel Jewish, you don't have to be Jewish. What kind of ridiculous notion is that? So, if you make a Jew feel his own Jewishness, you don't have to convince him about Shabbos. It'll happen by itself. If you make a Jew feel Jewish, you don't have to argue about this mitzvah and that mitzvah. It'll all come by itself. I think it's true. No Jew rejects Judaism. No Jew. There was a time when there seemed to be more important things, like communism, like Zionism. You can't spend your time being Jewish. There are important things that need to be accomplished. You have to build the Medina. You have to fight for the workers. That's an important thing to do. And many Jews dropped out because there was something more important. Today, there isn't a Jew in the world who says, I have something more important to do. There's nothing more important. So what's keeping them from getting into Yiddishkeit, into mitzvahs? Nobody invited them. They don't feel invited. That's the only thing missing. I've never heard anybody say, I am in principle against Shabbos. No such thing. I am in principle anti-kosher. There's no such thing. Jews who are not involved is because nobody involved them. That's all. You invite a Jew, make him feel Jewish, you don't have to say anything else. Not necessary.
So what do you say, the communities aren't open to that? Is that what it is?
And even if we are open, we haven't told them. We haven't communicated that. Here we're sitting, come on, you're all welcome. Well, why didn't you say so? So you can't just sit there and say, I'm welcoming them. You got to go out and tell them that they're welcome, because they don't think they are. Because they were told by their great-grandparents, who were very religious, that they're not Jewish. Because they don't eat like a Jew, they don't dress like a Jew, they don't read like a Jew, you're a goy. Now you got to undo that damage. So you got to come to them and say, no, you're not a goy, you're actually as Jewish as Moses. Then they'll feel welcome. So really, we have to find the common ground, not the elitist ground. I do this, I do that. You're Jewish, and you feel comfortable being Jewish. Can you help another Jew feel comfortable? So don't try to convince a Jew that there is a God and that he gave the Torah and that the Torah we have is the Torah he gave. Jews don't need that. And don't promise them that if they'll keep mitzvahs, they'll go to Gehenna, Gan Eden. Promise them they're going to go to Gehenna. Don't tell them that their life will be wonderful if they keep mitzvahs. Don't talk down to them. Jews don't need rewards. We just want to do the right thing. So, make a Jew feel comfortable. Make him feel his own Jewishness, and then just get out of the way and let him establish his relationship with God. Because he's Jewish. Don't come to a Jew and say, can I introduce you to Judaism? What an ugly statement that is. You invite a Jew to come and keep Shabbos. His Shabbos, not your Shabbos. You offer a Jew a pair of tefillin. His mitzvah, not yours. The Federation in New York made a project years ago to have an empty seat at your Seder table. in consideration of the Russian Jews who can't make a Seder. The Rebbe was very upset. You have an empty seat at your Seder table? Don't blame Russian Jews. It's because your son doesn't want to come to the Seder. That's why you have an empty chair. Every chair at a Seder table belongs to a Jew. Find him and give him his seat. Don't leave it empty. Don't bring Judaism to a Jew. Bring his Judaism, her Judaism. Here's your mitzvah. Here are your candlesticks. Not, would you like to join me in my religion? And by the way, we do this to our own children. How many teenagers do you know who have said to their parents, it's your Yiddishkeit, leave me alone. You do your thing. It's not my thing. How did that happen? How did Yiddishkeit become the property of a generation? We must have said something wrong. We must have given the wrong impression. My children would ask me at a certain age, why can't you do such and such on Shabbos? I said, I don't know. What do you want from me? It's your Yiddishkeit. Work it out. You have a problem with God? It's your problem. Don't ever come back to me and say, well, it's your Yiddishkeit. Why do you want me to keep it? Not mine. It's yours. You have a question, you can find an answer. Let's be careful not to alienate our own children by giving the impression that we are practicing a religion and they don't want to be religious. And they're right. Just because you're religious doesn't mean I have to be. But if you're Jewish, they have to be Jewish. Can't help it. It's contagious. So, being Jewish is not only good for Jews, not only good for non-Jews, it's good for God, the creator of heaven and earth. You want to improve on that? Good luck. Religions try to improve on it. You see what happens when you try to improve on it? You end up with Islam and Christianity. You can't improve. And this is how Mashiach is going to come. Those who try to embellish the Torah have to admit that they failed. You try to embellish something and fail, what do? You go back to the original. That's how Mashiach is going to come. That's how peace will come to the world. When the religions of the world realize you can't embellish on Torah. You can't make Torah better. It is perfect. Let's go back to that. To the original plan. We are the original people. We never stopped being Jewish. We never changed. Let's do it. And do it b'simcha. Then our children will want to follow. Others will want to learn. When you do mitzvahs properly, you become contagious. Everybody seeing you says, what makes you so happy? How come you're so content? I want that. And then you don't have to convince them. One mitzvah at a time. They want it. They want to be Jewish. Invite them. Make it inviting. That's all you have to do. Thank you very much for listening. We should have a lot of good news.